From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training Podcast. I'm going to be one of the hosts for this episode. My name is Bill. Who else is here and half awake?
Oh, it's so bad. My race hangover is so bad, but it's fine. I'm here. Vicki. I'm Vicki. Yeah, okay. I'm Vicki.
Way to get to it. Anyway.
Yeah, you know.
Okay, post New Jersey Motorsports Park, we went there, we raced, we had a good time. I was not allowed to race on the all-female team, and then all of a sudden I get a call from a friend who says, "Hey, I've got a spot." And I said, "Why, yes, I will," because it's on one of the cars and one of the teams. It was one of the goals that we've had forever and ever. Apparently, everybody else in the world literally is unavailable. So I was the last person to call. And I said, yes, it is the number 71. It is the orange Cheaties car. It is from Three Pedal Mafia. It is run by Uncle Dave. Most people know him as Dave Carpenter. Welcome to the podcast, Dave.
Oh, thanks for having me.
No worries. We've been trying to get you on the podcast for almost a year.
At least.
Yeah. We're not great at planning. That's okay. We're good. So, Dave, you've listened to the podcast once or twice. I know I slipped you a couple of dollars. You did it for me. And
yeah, they were fake bills, by the way.
Well, I mean, use it or lose it, baby. Anyway, that brings to a story from pit race with the strip bar down the street, but that's a different podcast. Anyway, just in case people aren't familiar with you, could you kind of go over your background, maybe your personal life, family life, racing life, whatever you want to get into?
Well, in Lemons, I'm part of Three Pedal Mafia. The I guess you can call it one of the conglomerates of Lemons. Mm-hmm. My background in racing, I started. Let's see. I've been around racing my whole life. My brother raced asphalt modifieds at Wall Stadium, wrenching on those for many years. I was an avid RC racer for most all of my life. Started doing that.
For those not familiar, RC racing is not where you take the RC cola and roll it down a hill. That would be
bad.
Yeah, that would be bad, especially for your victory.
For
radio controlled cars
that opened it up. But anyway, yeah, I did that for many years. Actually got to race that at a national level for several years and worked for a manufacturer in it for a few. And kind of got burned down on that for a while. I started doing sim racing. I've been involved with for at least 20 years, actually more, starting back from when Papyrus first had the early NASCAR games. But all that stuff was just really just to kind of scratch the itch, the need for some kind of motorsports competition. And how Lemons came about was my nephew Aaron found Lemons. I don't know where, forums somewhere on the internet, talked about it a bunch of times, and then he found somebody looking for a driver / mechanic, and he is a mechanic by trade, and it ended up being a car that was involved with Three Pedal Mafia back in like 2014. So my first race was at New Jersey, not racing, but I went to go help and wrench on the car all weekend, which we did a lot of. And that was at New Jersey in 2014. They raced, it was a 68 Ford Cortina. They raced another time at New Hampshire, which I couldn't go to at a trip that I'd already planned. So then the following year, I was asked to drive this Cortina at Thompson, the first race that they had at Thompson. And I know myself, I started looking for a car. I wasn't going to be happy driving just for somebody else, you know. So I found the Cressida about 20 minutes from me. It was a previously run Lemons car. It had done 2 races. And after talking to the owner, his name was Brian. He knew a lot about Toyota Supras, which essentially that's what this Crested is, a 4-door Mark II Supra. And Aaron actually tried to talk me out of buying it, which he is always thankful that that's one of the few times that I didn't listen to him. And then pretty much the rest is history, because once that first race at Thompson, we didn't run that Cortina. We did a track day at Raceway Park. I brought my car. They brought theirs to do some shakedown, and found that it needed parts that was not going to be able to get because they're unobtainium before Thompson. And we decided to put tires on the Cressida and run it, make its maiden voyage. And then we never looked back since.
Excellent.
Absolutely true. And the car never stops. Just run. We'll get into the car later. Miss Vicki?
Let's go.
Okay, very well. Thanks for coming.
I'm at the point of drooling. So
I wanted you to help gang and pick up on.
I'm here for the gang. I am.
Yeah. Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training podcast. I'm the only one hosting tonight. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you guys race with the Three Pedal Mafia, and you know, you whether you guys admit it or not, we always refer to you as a sister team. We always say you guys are the reason that we're involved with the sport. And if we had success, whatever small level of success we've ever had was thanks to your guys' help and guidance. So, do you feel bad about that, Dave?
Oh, absolutely not. No, not at all. I just know anytime that I was like, where's my, whatever tool? And it's over there. It's in the next bit. It's in Garage Heroes.
Yeah. That's right.
The good news is we learn from our lessons and mistakes. So whatever we borrow, we then go buy one the next time. So, the tool chest is building.
Yeah,
Bill's got a shopping problem.
Occasionally I have stuff you guys need too. So anyway, so Dave, what drugs were you taking when you decided to let me in your car? Did you literally ask everybody in the world, like 7.8 billion people, and they all said no? And you said, well, I guess he's the only one left because everybody else I know is racing. No,
there really is not a long list of people to ask. But you got recommended by Chris, actually.
Yeah.
I owe him more money.
It was more of a last minute thing, and it was like, who, and I honestly, with who they were bringing, or with the car they were bringing, the rotary, the spinning triangles, I kind of figured there was a good chance that there would be drivers without a seat at some point during the weekend. And so I wasn't too concerned, but yeah, then Chris had recommended that I contact you, and sure, why not?
So how'd the race go for the we're gonna steal some thunder from the E1R podcast a little bit. We're gonna go over the entire Three Pedal Mafia, but how did the race go for the Toyota Cressida Cheaties car?
It went smooth. No issues. Yeah. Just the car just ran like it does. No issues with the car whatsoever. The car, that is.
Yeah.
The car ran. Did have a little vibration on Sunday, which I'm not sure. It might have. We rotated the tires after Saturday, and the place I take my car to get tires mounted, I haven't been too happy with the last 2 times. They balanced the tires. They didn't really put weights on very well, and
it's lovely.
I have a tire machine and a balancer. The tire machine right now needs a part replaced. So sometimes it's just not worth the time for me to do it. Or I should say, I don't have the time to do it, so I'll just bring it there. So it might have tossed the weight. That's what I'm hoping it is. But it was only on the front straightaway. Once it got up just over 90, it would start to shake a little bit. but it was consistent through the day, so I wasn't too concerned.
So we found recently a tip that we were, I'm constantly looking to get a little bit better because, there's so much to improve. One of the tips that somebody said was to use the thin aluminum tape from HVAC. Because
I usually do that too. Usually I didn't this time.
Especially with the El Jefe tires, because they have so much weights on them. It's like put a pound on that side, put a quarter pound on that side, because they're just so heavy. But we started doing that and we haven't had a problem since then.
Yeah.
So people aren't familiar with the Toyota Cressida. Toyota Cressida, you've been running for, I know there's a crazy amount of miles and races and everything.
I just figured it out. This was its with me as the owner is its 22nd race.
Wow.
And it's done 2 races with the previous owner.
Wow.
So Aaron was saying that was like 20,000 race miles.
Yeah, it's got I didn't check after this weekend, but it's almost 20,000, or should be about 20,000 race miles.
Have you had that engine rebuilt at all?
This is technically the second engine that we've put in, and it is it is a stock engine. The original engine, I'm trying to think, probably was it 2018? I bought I'll go down a rabbit hole a little bit with the Toyota engines. The original 5MGE, it was called, came in the Mark II Supras and the Cressidas of that generation, MX-73s. There is a 6MGE, which was a later model, was not available in any cars in this country. Cressidas and then Supras went to a 7M in this country. So there is a bunch of 6Ms out there that were imported because it was like basically like an additional, instead of a 2.8 liter, it's a 3 liter. So it's just like a 5M with a little bit more displacement. It's a little bit extra horsepower, not much. So it was a plug and play upgrade. And there was importers that were importing these motors, and I had found one that somebody had built up and cheated up, and I bought it, went to North Carolina to get it, put it in the car, didn't make the end of practice day before it spun a bearing. And that was, I think, 2018. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was 2018 NJMP. Happened on practice day, so we stayed up all night. Friday night, I drove back to my house to get the original motor and put it in. And that motor ended up staying in the car for a whole nother year. And then I found another completely stock 6MGE local that I got a killer deal on that was just sitting under a tarp. And then we put that in 2019, and that's the same motor that's in it since then.
So the Cressida, or the Cheaties car, is it's like a Swiss clock. I think we've seen it break once. It just round and round all day long, and usually top 10-ish in overall. And it doesn't have that much horsepower. It doesn't have super cheaty tires. It doesn't have really anything super cheaty about it, even except for what's written on the side of the car. How would you classify the car for people who aren't familiar with it, like maybe some of our West Coast listener?
What are you saying as far as like classified as
like? How did you philosophically, not part by part, but how do you philosophically prepare the car so that you're just able to get such reliability out of the car?
Well, it's a great platform to begin with. It's very simple. It's a very simple car. Everything's pretty durable. Most of the upgrades that I've done have really been for reliability. The only failures I had 2 differential failures at New Hampshire one year. So then the following year I did rebuild a differential, and I installed a diff cooler. I installed a pump, a cooler, a fan if needed, but the fan isn't necessary. That's probably a weak point, that the differential in that car is only the pumpkin. It only holds like 1.5 quarts of oil. So the heat generated over the course of an 8 or 10 hour day, depending if we're running a Thompson, is tremendous. And I noticed I was changing the fluid every race, and every race that fluid was coming out looking like it had 100,000 miles on it.
Wow.
So after the diff rebuild and putting the cooler in, now I don't even bother changing the oil. I change it at the beginning of the season now, and after like 3 races, it still looks like brand new.
Wow. We need
So-
that.
So the first thing you did not do was add the twin turbo, right?
No.
And what about the supercharger? I heard supercharger in there. No.
Nope.
How about the $15,000 supersized big brake kit for the car? Was that on there?
Well, no, I have what if you go on some of the old Supra forums, they have the poor man's brake kit. Essentially, it's an Infinity Q45 caliper on the front, so it's 2 piston instead of 1, and a Mazda MPV rotor drilled out for 4 lug fits perfectly. You have to do a little machining on the hub because the stock front brake rotors are, I believe they call it like a captive rotor. It actually bolts onto the back of the hub, so it's not easy to change.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little dinky, thin thing. So this is the next best upgrade, and it's got plenty of brake. I could go to a Z32 300ZX caliper to make it a 4 piston, but I already have enough trouble with flat spots here. So, just stab the brake a little bit. And
so your super cheaty big brake kit is $12,000 instead of the $15,000 one?
Yeah, about that. Now, actually, the Mazda rotors on Rock Auto are about $12 a piece.
But that's not super cheaty, Dave.
Mm-mm.
No,
that and ST43s, I usually get about 3 races out of a set of pads, and then still could probably get a 4th.
Yeah, at least a test day, right?
Yeah, easy. Yeah. But that's it. Stock rear brakes on it. I did have when I bought it, it had like stiff springs wedged in the stock struts in the front, and a little bit of lemony engineering for rear springs in the rear that were stiffer than stock. And I still actually use that same setup. I put a little better shocks on it that are just KYB adjustables. And in the front, I did do a well-done coilover kit.
Okay.
But that's pretty much it. She's a little soft. It's compared to some of the cheaty BMWs out there, the springs, even though are much stiffer than stock springs, they're still on a little bit on the soft side. And I've only running 225 50/16 tires.
Oh, they're 16s. So, okay.
Yeah. So the next step would be, and again, one of the limitations is budget. It's to go to a 17-inch wider tire, it means I'd have to buy like 2 sets of wheels. Then the tires are much more expensive. The car works with what we got, so it's kind of
Definitely does. I had a great time.
Mm-hmm.
Except when I went off the grass. But all I could hear, I'm defending myself now before you two team up on me. So I'm coming around the turn, and a car that shall remain nameless starts to go sideways, and it was it wasn't the QE2, but it wasn't much smaller. And then so that took up like 2 of the 3 car width paths around the turn. And then in the third path, which was the outside, there was a brake pad and caliper assembly. And all I could hear was Aaron saying that don't mess up. Well, something like don't mess up my car. So
I think it began with an F, right?
It was something with duck. I think it was a breed of duck, like a flock of ducks or something like that. And I'm scared of Aaron. And so I took to the grass. I think I was on the button before I had even hit the grass and said 4 off because there was nowhere else to go. So anyway.
Right.
And you know what the worst part about it, Dave?
What's the worst part?
For the rest of the race, at least my stint, and probably for the rest of Saturday, there was this, how do we put it? Sweaty butt crack print.
Oh my gosh.
On the windshield, right where you need to look to turn left. So every left-hand turn, I'm basically looking at someone's.
I do have that video.
Yeah. Well, that won't be on the list for this podcast. This is a family-friendly show, and nobody needs to see that.
Oh no, let's talk. Why did you get the
I just did this.
Oh.
Post
Wake
race
up.
hangover.
The race
Just-
hangover is so bad.
Just did the
Yeah.
story. If you're gonna pick on me, stay awake, please.
I know it's so bad.
What did
It's
you
so bad.
say? I heard that you told Bill he sucked when he came into the penalty box.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Because Bill doesn't get penalties very often.
No. You know what the best
So
part?
when they do happen, it's most awesome.
You know what the best part about this, Dave?
What's that?
20 minutes into her stint, first stint of the day,
I did.
she loops the car, takes it into black flag area. Nothing on the radio.
Radio wasn't working.
She
Nothing.
was trying to be stealth.
Stealth black flag.
Nope.
Gets out of the car. Nothing. Doesn't mention a thing. Everything's fine until I get a picture of her car pointing backwards at Amanda as Amanda goes by, and Vicki wanted to, like, apparently she was doing her track walk in the car because you know how you look backwards at the track to see how.
Yes.
Well, she was doing that, and that was the first time I heard about this, and
Oh, that was you in that picture.
yes, it
Oh,
was.
That was
Yep.
Jess.
No, and shortly after, I think I did like about 3 or 4 more laps. I took the cookie off the top of the car.
It was the
Yes.
cookie's fault.
No, it wasn't the cookie's fault.
It didn't
but
help though.
It did not help. It did not help. Yeah,
Yes, for those
there-
playing at home, if you're looking for performance handling improvements, the thing that you do not do is put a 45 or 50 pound cookie on the top roof of your car when the car weighs like 150 pounds. So don't do
Yeah.
that. That's not
Yeah.
optimal.
It weighed that much. I didn't think
Yeah.
it
No,
weighed that
I would
much.
probably say it was probably about 30 pounds. I mean, I could lift, yes, probably about 30, 35 pounds, but
Mhm.
You
at least
fiberglass the hell out of that thing.
at least it felt like it. But when the car was leaning, it just kind of kept leaning.
Right.
So,
It's big
but even
There's,
the
I'm
girls
not
were
an
saying-
engineer, but that's like, what do they call it, Bill? A fulcrum? Like a
Lever arm, fulcrum.
little-
Yeah,
yes.
it wasn't quite the boat that you
Right.
guys used to drive,
yeah.
but it wasn't much better.
Yeah, the
Yes.
girls were saying that it was noticeably improved when they got in and I took the cookie off.
Yeah.
So they said it really was hustling at that point. But I only did like about 4 more laps because I was really trying to get the feel for what was happening with the
Mhm.
car. I was like, with the 2 girls, Jennifer, who has not experienced a car before, and both girls not experiencing the car before.
Right.
I was like, this is not, and because I was anticipating sprinkling rain, I'm like, this is not the day to play with this. So I took it off. But it ran pretty well after that. And yes, that happened. And you know what? I just didn't think about it happened so early on in the race. And I just kind of like drove in, had them take the cookie off and went back out. And then I just never thought about it again. I actually forgot that I had done that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Till
I did.
the pictures came out. Mhm.
Yeah, well, I'm glad the pictures came out.
Mhm.
They're really good pictures.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Very well. That's fine.
I know.
You know, Vicki,
Yes.
we know you have a certain, fangirl type crush with Amanda,
I definitely fangirl on her auto ability.
but turning around to see her on the track mid turn
Yep.
probably didn't get you bonus points in the fangirl club that you've started.
Well, I waved. I
Oh,
said
you
hi.
did? Okay. All right. Very well.
It was
All right,
good.
Very well.
Yeah. It was good. So go ahead.
So how did the race end up going for the Cressida, Dave? Did your Saturday go relatively smooth besides the hole that you had as second position?
Well, even with that one little bobble, we ended up like 12th at the end of the day.
I think it was 12, yeah.
Yeah. Our objective every race is like, just go run your laps. To just drive the car to your ability. Don't drive past it. We're not out doing hero laps. No telemetry in the car telling you what your lap times are. I've had drivers that want to know what their lap times are. We always just tell them, shut up and drive. Just shut up and drive.
Our response is it's the amount of time it takes for you to go around the lap of one lap of the racetrack, but that's not important right now.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's from my perspective, it's if I know myself that I don't want to be caught up just chasing lap times. sometimes I think it'd be good to have for like a test day, but I would take it out for race day, especially in a lemons
Mhm.
race. You're so busy. Like you may run an entire 2.5 hour stint and get, if you're lucky, have one lap where you get a clean lap in, where you're not passing somebody or being passed. My car is not, like you said, it's not the fastest car out there by any stretch. We're usually about the 40th. If you go down the speed chart of the
Quickest, yeah.
fastest lap, we're like the 40 to 45th. And even with like Chris drove the car on Sunday, he set fast lap for the weekend, and we're still 48th fastest.
Yep.
Mhm.
So
Relative
there's-
to A, you're probably towards, if not towards the bottom, maybe close to the bottom.
probably. So I mean, there's B cars that are faster than us. We won B at Thompson in, I think, 2016.
Mhm.
Or second or third. Let's see. I think our second time at Thompson. I think it was 2016. Maybe it was 2017. So, and we've been in A since. And there's a bit of a I don't want to call it an arms race, but there's just a lot of cars that have gotten a lot faster since then. If I can look down at the charts of our lap times, like I look at our fastest laps from year to year at a track, and you'll see like a second or two better here, a second or two better there. And I really attribute that to just us getting better, driving wise, getting more comfortable with the car, more comfortable with the track each time we go back. But we've finished as high as third, and I don't think there's any chance they'd ever put us back in B. But
no, you're too consistent.
Yeah, we're just too consistent. And but yeah, it's just sometimes it's like a B class car comes up and smokes by us down a straightaway, and it's a little frustrating, but it's really the next step is really a motor swap of some kind or something for more power. Yeah, if only I had one. But that's still on the fence. It's a possibility that because that just opens up a whole another can of worms. It's like, do we
start over, right? I mean,
well, it's essentially like starting over, but it's like we're going to burn more fuel. So, now we have like just the right amount of horsepower and fuel that the Cressida does have like a 19-gallon tank stock. I can get 2.5 hours pretty comfortably. We had to stretch it a little bit for Saturday. My stint, I started on Saturday, and I started getting concerned about fuel mileage and barely made our window. I ran like the last 20 minutes in fuel conservation mode. I do think that there was quite a strong headwind coming down the front straightaway that I felt the difference. And I think that contributed too, but also being the opening stint, it's like you ride around for 15 minutes plus under yellow, burning fuel. So that contributes too. But so now if we do something that's more power, then we're going to burn more fuel. So now that throws the pit strategy out the window. So now I need a fuel cell. If I want to keep up with the fast A cars, they make it on 2 stops on a standard day. And so that used to be a bigger advantage for us. When we first started racing, like a lot of times we would be not even the 40th fastest car, and just our pit strategy would, get us right in the game. I mean, that's how we when we won B, we won because of our I think we beat Bazinga, and we won because of pit strategy, and our pit stops were faster.
Right.
And that was the difference, because our lap times were virtually the same.
It's tough to make up time when you're stopped.
Absolutely.
So how did the NJMP race go for the rest of 3 p.m.? What did they bring, and what did the magic spinning Doritos end up doing?
Well, Tally, or Black Betty, coming off a win at Pittsburgh, with had a little motor issue. They had a bent push rod, but they're not sure what caused it. So they decided to park it for the weekend, and they pulled the motor out at the track so it can go right back to the engine builder. the other team, the other part of the 3 p.m. brought the Mazda 3, which for most of the weekend ran like it has been, pretty flawless. Although on Saturday, the motor almost fell out of the car.
Not good.
No, there was I saw it, I was helping Chris very briefly, but there was a single bolt that holds the motor up from the transmission side that either it had backed out and then ripped some threads out, but he was able to get that back together, clean up the threads, put some Loctite on it, and I think it also destroyed one of the CV joints or something along that line. And
I think
he
it was the
able to
motor mount.
replace. Yeah, well, it was the motor mount that came apart, but then
Okay.
because the motor, everything dropped, it broke. I think it broke a CV joint, or at least tore the boot up. So he had to clean all the grease up out of it, which was like everywhere, and was able to get that back together, and then get back out on track on Sunday. They did have some issues later in the day. I'm not quite sure exactly why, but they decided to park it at the end of the day. Something with a sensor.
Airflow, I think.
I think it was but it's like the original 250,000 mile mass airflow sensor, and then they just decided to park it because it was so late in the day. And then there was the Spinny Triangles car.
Mhm.
They had some driver fitment issues on Friday.
Oh, really? I didn't hear about that.
Yes, they had because the original seat in the car, I believe they said it was a Kirky seat, and it was bolted to the floor. And then they put sliders and their OMP seat in. And even though they put like an additional hoop in the top to raise the, the roof line, for, they, whoever built the cage, they did not build the cage, but the sidebars don't go up very high. They could have gone higher up into the roof. So, but even with that extra hoop they put in, their heads were still too high on some of them. And so they spent most of Friday just remounting the seat, getting it lower so they could drive it. They said so when they did get it out on track that it was really fun to drive. But it did on Saturday what Spinny Triangle motors generally do.
Burn oil and gas.
It burned oil and gas, but yes, then somehow they started letting water out the exhaust, and it pretty much ended their day or ended their weekend.
Well, it was nice of them to wash the track for everybody, though. That was
yeah, it was definitely washing out the garage area with that burnt oil smell, though. They were clearing us out. We were putting fans telling them, like, move your oil pans away, you're killing us.
Oh gosh. Yeah,
Yes,
there was
burnt oil.
Yeah, I was looked up underneath the car, and the wind was actually catching the ripples of the oil that was puddled up underneath there. There was so much.
Yeah, burnt oil is bad. That's when I burned the diff up, 2 diffs, like I said, up at New Hampshire a few years ago, and I absolutely cleared out the garage. But the smell of that burnt gear oil, it was bad.
Not good. Not good.
Mm-mm.
So Dave, your team has won pretty much everything except for the newest, Halloween meets gasoline, whatever the new contest is. So when are you guys going to try to do something about that? When are you going to fix that hole in your resume?
I think we just did.
What?
Yeah.
Since when?
I think we did.
You had a theme that won this weekend?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nobody noticed you guys were dressed weird or acting funny or
no,
not at all. It just
nobody
seemed
saw
normal.
Nobody saw Mongo running around spewing words of wisdom or a preacher standing on top of everything with his what is it? Tire Rack catalog? Yes, I think it was his SCCA book, or I think he also had a Tire Rack catalog, all bookmarked.
So for those who weren't there, Dave, you want to describe a little bit the glory that was the Three Pedal Mafia theme of the week?
Well, the Three Pedal Mafia has been kicking around the idea of doing a Blazing Saddles theme for like years, and just how do you do it? How could they
You get away with it, right?
Exactly.
It's quite not quite
Not
PC
PC,
these days.
no.
Yes.
Not anymore.
No, but and the thing is it was like you couldn't pull it off the way it was. So then Eric Kritzler did a lot for the team. Like he like I said the other day, it's like he was herding cats trying to get us all together on all the performances. Like he came up with such a great plan. I mean, he wrote lyrics to the song that he sang in BS. He just did an amazing job. We had scripts. Now, not everything that he had planned out didn't all come to fruition, but it wasn't because of Eric.
Yeah.
It was because of the team. It was really difficult actually during BS to hear him when he was singing the music, like he was like a narrator. And so some things didn't happen. Some people missed their lines, but the point was had, that's for sure. I mean, it came out great. And then we made sure to be, in costume as much as possible, even if it was just wearing the hat. Like I was Mongo, and which was not the hardest costume to do.
No, not so hard. And
no.
You look just like him. You just don't have his checking account from playing football all those years. But,
no, yeah. That's something I learned. I never knew that he was a football player. But although when he played football, they didn't really get paid all that well.
I think it was still pretty good though for the time.
For the time, sure.
Yeah.
But then of course Chris made the what do you call it, the
real racer. Oh, the toll booth.
Chris was the real racer. Yeah. So that's the spin on it. That's how we were able to make it happen at Lemons races. Instead of the sheriff, we were a racing team looking for a real racer.
Mm-hmm.
So when the real racer comes to town, such as like a Randy Popes or somebody, then we all get shunned. You get shunned. We don't want real racers. So that was the twist that we put on it, and it really worked out great. It was a lot of fun actually all weekend.
And then to top it off, you guys then had the potluck with some entertainment afterwards provided by the team, or at least one of the team.
Yeah, again, Eric has a band, or he's a member of a band, and they performed during the potluck. And so it was Chrissy helped organize, as she always does, with a phenomenal job with the potluck, along with drawing a blank, can't think of the team name. Anyway, I can't think of the other team that was involved. They had the great barbecue. That's all I remember. It was amazing.
Yeah. And there was a lot of it.
There was, but
I was on a parts run. I didn't get any. I was gone by the time I got back.
Oh, you missed out.
I did. I'll take takeout next time, guys. Just let me know. So
but yes, that was great meat to put in your mouth.
It wasn't quite what I hear Kurt's butt, but Kurt's never given to me any, so I have nothing to measure.
It's been so long since I've had Kurt's meat in my mouth. I don't remember what it's like.
I thought the highlight was the slush machines, and which was great,
and the cotton candy.
Yeah, and somebody pointed to the bottle of vodka that was sitting up underneath the slush machine, which was nice. We had pina coladas, a little bit of vodka, and it was very nice.
I missed out on that.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
What I was thinking. I know the guy with the cotton candy machine was over by us, and he was busy all night.
He was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he did a lot of deltoid work because he was just going round and round and round.
Yep.
Vicki makes fun of me for my predisposition to the shave ice machine. He keeps saying it's so much work. It's so hard to do. I'm like, you don't ever do any of it. So what's the big deal? It's always me. So anyway, Miss Vicki, your microphone's muted.
Why, yes.
How are you? Do you want to take the lead on the next section, or are you still in?
I'm just going to have you do it.
Wakey.
I'm really having a rough time.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes and Training Podcast. It's Bill Solo tonight. How are you doing, everybody?
I know.
Anyway, thanks for coming back. Anyway, so Dave, one of the things that we notice is, in spite of your results, in spite of your car running and never seeming to break, in spite of you always being like a fixture of the top 10, sometimes top 5, you also managed to do it on a pretty good, tight budget. Do you have any tips and tricks that we could give our listeners so they could actually get a little bit better? Maybe not beat you, but maybe beat what they've done in the past.
I would say there's a lot of little things that you can do.
Captain's log supplemental.
So, Miss Vicki.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember when we were watching those WRL events and some of those grid life events where you used to see the in-car video and it had like the cameras seeing front and back, but it also could see all the telemetry and everything that was going on? You know, most of the ones that we liked were taken by the Sentinel system. Remember James came on our podcast earlier?
Right.
You know, we have no excuse since he lent us one for trial and demonstration purposes. We should actually probably put that in one of our cars. Maybe 2.
I really think we should.
I think we should.
I know.
Because then we'd look like the immature endurance racing team that we are. Oh, wait, I mispronounced that, didn't I? Sorry, my bad. We could
So what does
have-
the Sentinel system do?
We could have 3 cameras with picture in picture. We could have, if we ever get the AIM system to work, open invitation to anybody from AIM to come on and give us a little bit of love. We need some help. And then we could have all our telemetry on there. And then we can have it streamed live into the paddock or around the world to our millions of fans. We're apparently very popular in Kenya right now. Don't know why, but that's fine. And it can integrate all the available race statistics from like Race Hero and everything. So we could actually see how we're doing on video. We wouldn't even have to carry around our phone anymore. Live.
I love it.
There's no such thing as cheap racing. Like I said, I even raced toy cars, like radio control cars, and there's budget racing in that too, but it's never cheap. The biggest thing I could say is don't get sucked into, I don't want to call it fads, but there's a lot of things that are out there that aren't really necessary to be able to race. Sure, some things will help, you know, one thing or another, but just being conscious of what you're spending your money on. If you want to, you know, make your car go fast and blow up, sure, go buy that turbo from eBay, or, you know, from eBay and bolt it on. If you want to build your car to run every race, then start looking at things to beef up the car, to make it more reliable, like what I did with the rear differential cooler. You know, stronger or better lugs or lug studs, stuff like that. That's not going to really improve your performance, but it's going to prevent something from breaking. And spending your money that direction. Like I said, with tires, like every year I keep looking at tires, looking at rims to fit. It's kind of hard to find 4x114 rims in the 17-inch with the right offset that I need. And when I do, it's like I can't find them at a reasonable price. And so then I just put it off till next year. There's some things that are necessities and some things that are not. I don't need, you know, it just depends on what you want to do. If you want to be up front and try to race with, you know, Betty and Amanda and Rust in the Wind and be able to turn laps with them, you know, you got to start looking at putting money into motors. Like I said, tires, they are all running 17-inch by probably 255, 275 wheels. It adds up.
At least 245s for sure.
At least, yeah. I could run like the width rims that I'm running in 16s. I can get 245s, but nobody, like I think maybe, I don't even think Yokohama makes it. I think there's Pirelli or somebody that makes a 200 tread wear tire that fits on my rims, because I have 8.25-inch rims. I could run a 245, but there's no tires of the choices that I would want to run in that size.
Right.
So that's why we went with a 225/50. and it's actually really good in the rain. That's one thing that helps. The car is very good in the rain.
Mhm.
It's very stable, very easy to drive. The narrower tires are better for wet track.
So if you were to prioritize, say somebody's got a car and they're doing the conversion, or they've got a race car and they're trying to make it a little better. If you were to prioritize like the first 3 or 5 things that they should look at that are kind of budget friendly improvements, what do you think? Would you recommend?
If somebody's building a car from scratch, the main thing that I would spend money on,
or even choosing the car,
or right. Well, if you're choosing a car, ask questions, find the histories of, like of that car in Lemons. There's some cars that are great Lemons cars that are durable. They'll run. They may not be the fastest. My brother also races Lemons. He built a Volvo 240, and they immediately wanted to put him in A. He still was running the automatic transmission. 10 years ago, or maybe not quite 10 years ago, if you showed up with any Volvo, you were getting put in A because they were known for reliability. They weren't always the fastest, but they would win races. Not so much anymore. That little 4-cylinder non-turbo is like a brick, but it's not very fast. He's won Class B with it just because of reliability. But if you're building a car, not only look at the platforms, see, like ask questions, ask a lot of questions, go to a race, see what cars people are running. Unless you're going out there just to do something really crazy and off the wall, like if you want to build a Sunbeam or whatever, knock your socks off. But if you want to go to race, you want to find something that's got a track record in Lemons. Like your Honda Civic, that's probably one of the wisest choices that you guys made. Somebody who's very well, like, knowledge, has a ton of knowledge about Hondas to be able to lean on, and parts availability. It's just a greit car for Lemons, and there's a lot of upgrades available once you're ready to go that route.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So if you were to prioritize, I think we're losing my my half guest host. If you were to prioritize things to do for your race car, where would hot engine swap, turbo, supercharger, big brake kit fall on the list? Would it be like number 2 or number 3, or would it be?
I would put the big brake kit over anything else. All the other things, just from what I've witnessed, not personally
For endurance racing, right?
Yeah, from what I've witnessed, turboing stuff is just usually ends in a lot of heartache.
You get good at engine swaps though, Dave.
Yes, you get to know the insides of that motor really well. Yeah, it's really keep it stock. It's worked for me for all these races. The one time that I tried to do something with a cheated up motor, it backfired and it hurt. It was it was I tripped into North Carolina to buy a motor that was built, and it didn't work out. So that pretty much like wiped out the racing budget for that year. Then it was just keep running as it was, no more upgrades since. But
so could it be said, and you can agree or disagree, could it be said that a large automotive company that spends several $billion developing a car may be able to get more reliability than you could get in your own garage? Is that what you're saying?
Could they?
Yeah.
Sure. Maybe.
They seem to.
A possibility. Yes.
They might have a couple dollars in there.
They might.
Yeah. Especially if they have a good warranty system, that would be,
exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mind you, there are some manufacturers that even with all that engineering still get it wrong. But
yeah, I think the general rule that I've seen in my tenure within Lemons is the cars that run forever on the street perform terribly on Lemons, and the cars that run terribly on the street run pretty well in limits. It's weird.
That's what they say. I mean, I think it really depends. There's
Car by car, right?
yeah, it's car by car, because like when Toyota's got a bad reputation in lemons for a lot of years because of the 22R motor, which is a phenomenal motor. It's in so many older Toyotas, cars and trucks. I've owned a 78, I think it was a 78 Celica that had a 22R. And they're known to run hundreds of thousands of miles, but everybody that's ever run them in lemons says they blow up. So they kind of got a bad rap. When I got this car, it was like, oh, don't get a Toyota, it'll blow up. And the 6M or 5M is a pretty bulletproof motor. The later generation, the 7MGE motors, also there was a turbo version of that too, the 7MG TE. They were notorious for blowing head gaskets, but it was a manufacturing issue. They used crappy material for the head gasket at the time, and the head bolts were not torqued enough. So even as I would not be afraid of a 7MGE if I did a head gasket, put a metal head gasket on it, put ARP studs, higher than manufacturer torque specs, and it would be a great motor. Those are all predecessors to the 1JZ and the 2JZ.
So, but I don't think that's significantly different than other cars. Every car, if pushed, has a weak spot. Like the BMW, it's the coolant system and the rear subframe and blah blah blah. You can pick a car, any car. A Volkswagen, it's everything.
Yes, just ask Tom Lamino.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Audi,
no, you're absolutely right. Every car has got something.
Yeah, and
some just have more than others.
Yeah, exactly. And some are easier to fix than others, and others have been seemingly fixed or solved by somebody. So, don't try and reinvent the wheel. If somebody already fixed the problem, go with it. It's not a bad plan.
Exactly. And I think too, like, I've never had raced a front wheel drive car or driven one on a racetrack anyway, but it just seems from my watching and seeing everybody with front wheel drive cars, they tend to have front hub and axle issues more than anything else. So it's something that you have to be conscious of and have plenty of spare parts and make it part of your routine maintenance. That's a big key is routine maintenance. Going over your car after every race, even if it's nothing's wrong with the car, everything's great. I can't tell you how many times I just will, and my girlfriend Bob will make fun of me. What are you doing? I'm staring at the car. Why are you staring at the car? I'll be laying on the creeper underneath it, just looking at it. And I find so many little things that maybe a bolt backed out or something's rattling loose or something. That's a big key. Just spend time just looking it over, nut and bolts, looking for stuff.
And if you don't find anything, that's okay. You get to take a nap on the creeper. So
exactly,
it's good.
It's very comfortable.
It is. It can be. If you get a good creeper, it's well worth it. Well worth the extra $5 over the cheap one. So, Dave, you know what we're going to do?
What's that?
We're going to treat our listeners to the Fast and Furious Storytime questions with Uncle Dave.
Okay.
So, Dave, what was your first car and what is the worst car you've ever had?
First car was a 1975 Ford Thunderbird. With a 460 in it.
Ooh, big boy. Started off with the big ones.
Oh, yeah. That was my father's idea of, when I couldn't wait. I was always tinkering on something as a kid, working on go-karts or mini bikes or something. And I could not wait to get my driver's license. I wanted a car when I was I don't even think I was 16 yet. And I started car shopping, and I worked in a gas station at the time. And my father's rule was you can't fit something that could fit too many people. I looked at a good friend had a 60, I can't remember what year it was. It was a 60 Chrysler, New Yorker or something, land yacht. Father said, nope, could fit too many people in it. Somebody was going to give me a Volkswagen bus. Give it to me. Nope, fit too many people in it. Thing wouldn't go 60 miles an hour with a tailwind downhill. But I could get too many people in it. And then I looked at Mustangs 70, I don't know, 71. I remember looking at a 71 Mustang that was, thank God I didn't buy it. It was a Roach, a real project. but he's like, no, too dangerous, too much to do. But then we found this Thunderbird and he goes, oh, that's the perfect car. But yeah, I think I had like 8 people in it one night going from one party to another when I was in high school. Yep. Not the greatest choice, but it didn't really last that long. It had a lot of electrical issues and other stuff, but I had a lot of cars through my early years. The worst car I had was probably, I think it was an 81 Volkswagen Rabbit diesel. That, again, my father talked me into buying because I think of the fuel mileage. I was commuting back and forth to
especially when it's
school.
parked in your driveway,
Yeah.
It doesn't use any.
And doesn't go over like 65 miles an hour easily. But yeah, it only cost me like $9 a week, even, back then to commute to school and back an hour each way every day. But that was probably the worst car I had. What's next?
What is something that no one or most people don't know about you that would surprise them?
Something that people, I don't know. I've talked, it's not much about me that people don't already know. I mean, everybody knows that I did RC racing. I don't know. I was in band in high school.
Okay, I'll take that. That's fine.
I played baseball like 1 year. Yeah, I don't know. There's not too much. I'm pretty much,
okay.
Do
you have a favorite racing driver, maybe growing up?
I had a lot of favorite drivers growing up. I used to like I said earlier, my brother raced asphalt modified at Wall Stadium here in New Jersey. There was a lot of local drivers that I really looked, I guess you could say I looked up to. Besides obviously my brother, because he was a really good driver. But at the time it was like there was local drivers like Tony Siscone and only people that are like Northeast modified people would know these names, Reggie Ruggiero. But on a national level, of course, at the time I was a big NASCAR fan, but I followed all forms of motorsports. Mario Andretti, who couldn't love Mario? The guy had won in everything, like AJ Foyt, those type of guys that anything they got in, they would win and they would drive anything. Like later on, I got to meet and actually RC race against Tony Stewart. And again, he was the same thing. Like he would get in anything and he would win in anything that he could, that he would drive. I think that a lot of your modern day, like there's nobody today that I really, like I'll say fanboy over, because they're just it's just racing is so different today than it was, as I was growing up.
Well, the general rule is you never buy a jersey for a player who's younger than you are. Just in general. Just words to live by. Words to live by. So Dave, a Taproot car is the car that got you into being the car person that you are. Could be something you built as a model, could be something you had in the family or a neighbor's car, or who knows. Do you have a Taproot car that you can blame for all the money that we've spent on cars?
I can't really say it's one particular car. Like I said, it was, as growing up, my father was always working on something. He wasn't really a I'll say car guy, but he was, he liked to tinker on things. There was nothing that he didn't try to fix himself. I do remember, like, I guess you could say I'm more of a truck person probably in my youth, but he had an old, God, at which time he had so many projects, different times. Like he had bought an old Jeep CJ7 and done a ton of work to it, fiberglassing, floor pans that were rotted out, all kinds of stuff. And I was always involved with stuff with him. He had a Ford pickup that he, a 3/4 ton Ford that had a 302 in it that motor jumped the timing chain. He took a station wagon, bought a station wagon from a friend of mine, from his parents, to pull the motor out of, rebuilt it in the basement. I was helped him a little bit with that, and then put it in that truck. And that was actually the first thing I got to drive legally on the road, which was kind of sketchy. But at the time, those old Fords with the worn out front ends would pick a direction of their own.
Got a little play in the steering wheel.
Just a little bit. It took some getting used to. Yep. So, but yeah, there was no real one car or anything in particular. It was just, we're always working on something.
Okay. So Dave, somebody says, I want you to be able to build the dream car for you, for a race car for Lemons.
For Lemons.
What do you think? You got any car that intrigues you? Could be for anything. Could be IOE car. Could be for A-class car. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't ever see myself building an IOE car. Honestly, I like to drive, and as much as I like to tinker and work on things, I mean, maybe someday. Right now, I just don't have the space for it. I think if I didn't have a budget, I would probably I would stick with like a Toyota family, something like newer generation of like what I have. So like maybe a Lexus, like either an IS 300, which I know there's a few of them now in Lemons. You know, I think that's a great platform. The problem is, like, again, with like no budget in mind, the problem with the older cars, and even with mine, that's really becoming a problem, is availability of parts.
Yep.
Even though the IS 300 is like a newer generation and there's still more parts available, there's a lot of aftermarket parts. But then there is that whole like classic, like all those older Japanese cars are now becoming classic, and it's driven the cost of even used parts through the roof.
Right. If you can find them.
If you can find them, yes.
Yeah.
But you know, even like because again, they don't make the 2JZ anymore, so it's like there's a ton of aftermarket parts, but you try to find a used 2JZ without a lot of miles on it, and everybody wants $1 million for it. So,
and then you got to get somebody to deliver it to you.
yes, exactly.
I know.
Or you can do like I did and find, you know, situation where somebody's got one, wants to get rid of it, gives you the whole package at a reasonable price, and then you happen to have some, you know, good friends that are, you know, within several hours away at a race that could bring it back for you. You know,
for instance, could be, you know, just for instance there.
Just for instance.
Okay, so we're gonna play the claw game, right?
Okay.
You know the claw game, when you have the little claw and you just reach in there and you grab the little toy and pop it out. And,
yeah, the one that you never win at.
Yeah. Well, if you do, it's one of the junky toys. It's definitely not the high dollar toy. So we're gonna play the claw game, but it's into a competitor's car, and the claw is gonna pull them out of the car, and you're gonna pop right in. Is there a car that you're racing against that you just want to get some seat time in? Just see what it's like.
There's a few cars that I would like to drive, or like to try to drive. And not a boring BMW. Sorry, Amanda. There's you know, there's the Rust in the Wind when they had, well, I know their Falcon is a Z now, like, but when that thing, especially when it was the Z body, for some reason I could hear it better. That thing just sounds mean every time. I just love the sound of that turbo, the blow off valve. Every time they'd come up to lap me at, like, say, Thompson, I'd hear them before I see them coming.
Yes.
That thing just looked like it would be like sick to drive. What else? I do want to drive like a competitive front wheel drive car. One thing that iRacing has gotten, they've gotten some new car models in there in the last few years with like TCRs, like front wheel drive cars, that we've been doing a lot of. And it's really showed me how different you have to drive them, even in a simulator. So I do want to drive, try in real life racing a front wheel drive car, like, you know, perhaps, you know, Chris's Honda when he gets it together. My problem is luxury mammal size, and I don't fit in a lot of people's cars.
Yeah.
Like even I went out to Sonoma this year, and fortunately got to drive Corey Dickman's Omega, which was a blast. Sonoma was an absolute blast. I do want to go back because I kind of got gypped, not because of the car. We did have transmission issues, but because there was so many caution flags that my, like, I don't know, my Sunday stint, I think I was probably under yellow for at least 45 minutes of
Wow.
it. And the same thing on Saturday. And we didn't practice at all on Friday. So I had like 0 track time, no time in the car, no time on the track. Thank God for iRacing, because I knew the track before I even got on the track. But I spent my Saturday shift acclimating to the car, and there are some really fast cars out there on the West Coast.
There are.
Yeah, it was like unreal, like the speed of some of those like little Miatas. Just, I mean, here you might have 1 or 2 Miatas that are fast, but out there that's like they're all fast.
You can drive without a roof out there most of the time, so that makes it easier.
But yeah, it was the Omega was a blast to drive, and great people out there too. I met some great people, so I definitely would go back. I think Corey has a El Camino that he has built, and I'm hoping maybe next year I'll get a chance to maybe go out and take that for a spin. I know Corey's going to have to come out here at some point too.
I'm not sure if Corey is one of the 8 billion people who don't listen to the podcast, but if we do, Corey, let Dave come out and play with you. So we're going to win the lottery. We're going to build a desert island. On our desert island, we're going to build a racetrack. What cars do we need to have for you, sir? We want to make sure you're happy when you come and visit.
You know, I've heard you ask this question before, and I thought about it. It's like I don't really have any particular cars that I'd really, would make a difference. I would just want to be able to have all my friends that I get to race with 3 or 4 times a year there.
Okay.
No matter what we drove, I just want to, because that's most of what we do. It's really about the people that we're there with.
Okay, so let's pretend we have 5 people going out.
Mm-hmm.
You're one of them.
Only 5.
And we're going to have for now. And we can have 20. Doesn't matter. 20 people going out. You're one of them. And we're going to have like a recreation of the old IROC series. What car do we need to have, Dave?
Something hard to drive.
Have all of them the same.
I'm not sure. I think it would have to be something stupid, like stupid fast and terrible at the same time. I'm not a big
sounds like a TVR to me.
A who?
TVR. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think I'm not really big into cars in that aspect as far as like exotic cars or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've never had oh, someday I want a Lotus, or someday I want a Lambo, or someday I want whatever. It's really been like I'm more of a I enjoy motorsports and I enjoy racing. Mm-hmm. Not so much about like street cars or whatever. Now, if you were talking to like race cars, I think it would have to be like something purpose built, but with enough people to be fun. It would have to be something like some kind of a spec. I don't want to say spec Miata because I don't think I'd fit in one of them. But something along those lines. Maybe the new Toyota
Spec 86,
like the new GR Cup that they're coming out with.
Okay,
maybe something like that.
So you want an 86? Okay, all right, we can do that. Jennifer is unable to attend, but her favorite question is, what is your favorite car movie or car from a movie of all time?
Favorite car movie? Well, not my favorite car movie, but it's a racing movie, but it's quoted the most is Days of Thunder. Mm-hmm. And it's so stupid, but there's so many great quotes in it. I don't know. I think some of the other car movies that were out were just too campy for me. Like I can't get into Fast and Furious. I couldn't get past the first one.
Mm-hmm. No problem.
But I can't think of what's some of the historic ones. Art of Racing in the Rain was really good. what was the one that just came out a few years ago with
Ford versus Ferrari.
that was good too, but
Rush.
Rush, that's the name of it. I couldn't think of it. That I thought was a really well done movie. But yeah, anything more along the lines of racing.
All right. Let's see. Do you have a favorite food or beverage at or near a track to order? Is there something you found that when I go to X track, I get
at a Lemons race?
any
No.
race? Okay.
At other
Maybe at Wall.
racetracks,
Maybe at
at
Wall.
Wall Stadium, the funnel cake
At
funnel
Wall.
cake at Wall Stadium.
Hmm.
Yes,
Okay. All right.
yes, that's it.
Do you have a favorite track so far?
Lemons tracks that we've been to.
Any track?
All right, from driving aspect of from the Lemons racing I've done, I gotta say that it's hard to pick because I've been to Road Atlanta. I like Road Atlanta. I don't love Road Atlanta. Granted, when we went, it was miserable, it was cold, and it rained most of the weekend. So
we were right there with you.
yes,
That
so
sucked.
I like Pittsburgh. I'm not in love with it yet because I haven't run there enough. Like the first time we went, I actually got very comfortable with the track. Then we didn't go for a year because of COVID. And then we went last year in 21, and we were struggling with some fuel. We ended up being a fuel injector issue. We had some issues that we were dealing with, and I never totally got as comfortable as I was the first time. It takes a lot to get comfortable there. So I think, plus just to go there, it's like such a long tow for us. I'd have to say Thompson is one of my favorite tracks just all around. It's tight facility. It's a great fun track. It's not super high speeds. You can,
got some flow to it.
It's got some flow to it. New Hampshire, I as a driver, I love New Hampshire because you're constantly in traffic, and you're constantly working traffic there. From a car owner standpoint, I hate New Hampshire because it's brutal on your equipment. It's my only mechanical failures that have put us out have all been at New Hampshire. But the facility is great. The showers are great.
Hottest water in the world.
Yeah, it's great. That's the worst part of Thompson is the shower. The shower.
Both of them, right?
Yes, but Thunderbolt. I love Thunderbolt too. It's not super technical, but it's like a great racy track. So it's hard to really pick one. Sonoma was. I want more time at Sonoma, and I do want to start actually traveling. I may start at some point cutting back on the local races I do and actually travel to do a couple of arrive and drive somewhere. So, but I do want to go back out west.
Yeah, we try and do one new track every year just to see.
I'll just have to tag along with you.
That's not a problem. Open invitation. Do you have a favorite turn?
Favorite turn?
Yeah. Or a turn that you just can't get right? Either way.
Let me think. I think one of them actually Thompson. So Thompson, when you're on that oval, when it's not every year though, but I do love that big sweeper on the oval because there's so many lines through it and it's so many ways to pass people through there.
Especially if they have the cones higher up on the.
If they have the cones higher up, and then the one year they ran, they had like a tour modified event on the Wednesday before we were there, and they put down like the traction compound down on the bottom because when the modifieds run there, they typically don't run right on the bottom of the track. Their line is like up higher, so they put this traction compound down on the bottom, right at the edge of the apron, and you picked up, there was so much grip there, so you dive in you would dive in really late and just ride the rim and pick up so much momentum on people and be able to pass them down the straightaway. But yeah, when they didn't have the cones there, and it's that one year we were there that they did that, it actually rained part of the day, and there was so much grip, even with it being wet, that we could, you could just throw the car out there and it would just stick. That was actually a lot of fun.
I remember that year. That was fun.
But actually, one of my favorite parts, I'll say, wasn't one corner, was we ran Lightning in 2019, and everybody was poo-pooing it, telling me, "Oh, it's terrible. You'll be bored of it in 15 minutes." And I actually really enjoyed the track, but once you go through turn one, like that whole complex of corners, and it come up over that blind crest, I like really enjoyed it. And once I got the hang of it, was able to really work traffic through it well, and was very comfortable with it. I don't think the track was that bad as everybody said, but
no, it doesn't have like a memorable turn. I think that's why.
Right. But I mean, for that matter, really, Thunderbolt doesn't really either. Like Thunderbolt isn't really very technical.
Just
it's
just
it's just yeah, that's about it. And it's like, that's kind of like, but I actually, let me take that all back. Sonoma, turn 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
I guess that's turn 1, 2, 3, 4. That whole complex coming up that hill, cresting turn 2, and then like you're going back downhill, like throw the car into 3, and you can't even like begin to like fathom how hard you can throw the car into 3, and it just sticks. And yeah, that whole complex actually was my favorite of anything that I've run so far.
Okay. Well, since you're a big iRacer and other types, do you have a white whale track you need to get to?
A white whale track?
You haven't been? It's on your list. You need to cross it off.
Barber. Definitely want to do Barber. That Barber's that's one of my favorite tracks in iRacing. So I definitely want to do Barber. Yeah, that's what I'll say for right now. I mean, there's other tracks in iRacing that I'll probably never ever get to run on because they're in another continent. But yeah, definitely Barber. Laguna Seca too, but I think Barber, I think it would is probably more feasible.
A little closer. Not a lot closer, but it's a little closer.
Well, and honestly too is it's going. I've only ever driven Corey's car. It's the only other person's car that I've driven other than my own. And there is something different about driving your own car and then driving somebody else's.
100%.
Like I would, yes, as you well know. So I would love to take my car out west. It's never going to happen, but like Barber, there's the possibility of me actually towing, but maybe not until gas prices come down a lot, but to be able to tow down there is a possibility.
Well, let us know, because it's on our list as well. And we're dumb enough to drive just about anywhere, as I am driving out to Gingerman now today. So what a dummy I am. But anyway, so Dave, one of the best things about Lemons and racing in general is the people you meet. And the thing that
absolutely
makes it even better is apparently you and I have lived very close to each other for a very long period of time, never met, but we can thank Lemons for bumping into each other. And for some reason, you still tolerate us and say hi when we come in. So it was
please. Despite what everybody else says, I think you're pretty, you're pretty okay.
Wow. All right. I owe you more money. That's fine. Miss Vicki is tagged out, sir. If people want to follow along and see what you're up to, do you do any of the social media things, or are you part of that Three Pedal Mafia brigade? Do you guys publicize anything, or you're just kind of, I drive my car?
I drive my car. I put up some pictures. So I mean, Bobbin does take a lot of pictures, and she posts them and shares them on the Three Pedal page. That's the best way to really see anything. I'm not big on posting updates or anything on social media. But yeah, I drive my car.
I drive my car. Stay out of my way, and don't mess up my car.
Yes, but yes, Three Pedal Mafia. They have a Facebook page, but mostly a lot of their things are under Everyone Racers now as well. So, but yes, you'll see any pictures up there. from each race.
That's awesome. And Bobbin does take amazing pictures. The
She
ones that I
does.
can't figure out how she does is the really wide ones. So we'll
Yeah,
figure it out.
I don't. Well, yeah, she does. She plays around, and every time she goes, she learns something. So photography was like a hobby of hers, and it was great because when we first started doing this, it gave her something to do, to look forward to, other than just like
Talk to people.
talk to people or whatever. So it gave her a little place. Everybody appreciates her pictures, because most of the time, if she wasn't there would be hardly any pictures of anybody's cars.
For sure.
And you'd be lucky if you might get pictures on the on Lemon's page. But yeah, it's been really good. It's like I said, she picks up something, she learns something this weekend. She's like, I figured out how to do something else. And so each time she goes, she figures something else out. She gets some great shots. The New Hampshire is actually one of her favorite. Thompson, she loves to go to take pictures because everything's easily accessible. But New Hampshire is like probably the most scenic because it's always in the fall, and with the trees changing colors, it's always very, very like really good pictures.
Okay. Well, even though you're super secret and don't want to share anything, definitely stuff that people can learn from you. So you're more than willing to talk to just about anybody and help anybody out, as long as the car is not dead sitting in the garage. One of the great people we rely on, both for knowledge and for tools sometimes, but don't tell Dave. And if you ever see the Cheaties out there, it's definitely a car to watch. Dave, you've done a great job. I know you were sitting there saying, I don't have anything to talk about, but it was a great podcast.
Well, thank you.
You survived.
Yeah, I'm really sad that Vicki tapped out so much.
I know. Well,
we didn't get to pick on you enough.
Well, you have an open invite to come back on, and apparently I am the piñata of this podcast. So anytime you need me, just let me know. I will throw myself on the wall and see what we can do.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks for coming on, Dave.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a great night.
You
Bye.
as well.
Hello, sir.
What's up, Bill? How are you?
Not too bad. I'm not sure who's coming.
Oh,
Vicky's
gonna be very freaking boring.
No, you'll be fine. You'll be more than fine.
I need Vicki here so we can pick on you.
Oh, well, I didn't know that was part of the game, but okay. I will entice her. As we both know, that is a weakness. I've got to get to Gingerman this weekend, so she's downstairs doing a quick wash of the race suit, because that would be bad.
Yes, that would be funky.
Well, funky. It was a great weekend, but it was not a cold weekend.
No, that it wasn't. I will take that over what you guys had at Pitt, though, any day.
Yeah, you guys missed that.
Yeah, I chose wisely in deciding that would be my time to go to Sonoma.
It's not a bad place.
What's that?
Not a bad place to go. If you're going to suck it up and deal, you just got to do it,
Exactly.
So let me get this straightened out. She's treating it like an endurance race. She's like, I don't think I can make it to the end. I'm like, just come in for the beginning. Just come in for the beginning.
She could do it. We'll make it quick.
He says we'll do it quick.
Okay.
What, are you coming here?
I'm coming around.
You have a computer. It's like
You've only done a few of these.
It's like working with a 2-year-old today. She's not in the
Sure.
room, obviously.
Yes, I was just gonna say. She's probably says the same thing about you.
Well, I mean, that's every day for her. She doesn't get a break. I at least have a chance at getting a break. So.
Maybe more steer towards like doing this on a budget.
Oh, okay.
as
All
I like extremely on a budget with this. Otherwise, I'll follow your lead. You're the pro at this.
No.
You've done quite how many episodes up to now? Like
Almost-
500?
Almost 350.
Really?
How do I sound? Okay.
Sound good?
Thank you, Dave.
Hey,
How are you?
good. How are you? Only
I'm-
Tom can say that.
Oh, yeah,
It's
okay.
official. That's what I tell everybody.
How are you?
Good. How you doing? You guys
Do you-
recovering?
Race hangover just hit me today. So,
It's not. Well, you didn't do anything yesterday, so.
well, no, I did do stuff yesterday.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I forgot that our car ran out of gas, so I also had to push it into the hangar by myself. I was like, shit, okay, I could do this.
It's not a big deal if you don't bring the dog, but if you bring the dog has a mind of her own and does not like getting in and out of the car. So,
Mm.
so you can't
It's its
just
own
run.
thing.
Yeah.
So
So
And
she's a
no
smart
gas
dog
to
and
put in
stubborn.
it.
Nope.
no, we have
Put it-
gas now, but
Yeah,
it
I went and
runs.
got
I thought we might have done, running out of gas. I thought we might have done some damage to the fuel pump, but it started right up, so that was good.
Yeah, as long it died right coming in, right? As soon
Right.
as-
Right
Yeah.
after they went through the toll
Right
booth.
in front of the team.
Yeah. Yeah,
Perfect.
so I was like, why are they pushing it?
Gave her a
Yeah.
high five and ran to the back of the car and started pushing.
Right.
Yeah. We were
So-
trying to do our calculations, and she was on fuel conservation the last part of the stint. So, but we made it.
How many gallons? You got a cell in that, right? Or is it stock?
No,
tank?
it's just stock.
And how
Mhm.
many gallons is that?
I think it's 12.
Oh, okay.
So
Maybe it doesn't even take a full 5-gallon tank. I mean, about
it
five.
does.
Yeah, it does. I don't know.
you don't use gas. That's the problem. It's not the
Oh.
tank. It won't take more than 5 gallons. So you don't use more than 5 gallons. All right, Dave, we're going to get rolling while Vicki is still vertical. Maybe we'll talk her into
Oh,
staying longer.
So bad. It's so bad.
Race hangover is real, people.
Oh,
Yeah.
I hear
Well,
you.
my issue was I did the tower a couple times. So yeah,
Are you
that
gonna
was
waste?
bad.
Are you going to waste your
Go
vertical
ahead.
time telling stories about you? It's me, me, me.
Go
me,
ahead.
me,
Go
me,
ahead.
me, me.
I'm here. I'm here
All right,
for
very
it.
well. All right, very well.